Elvira Cowan is the artistic director of the Toronto International Film Festival's new home, the Bell Lightbox. And this is exciting and important because, well, why don't I let the man whose curatorial vision will guide this new space talk about it himself?
Thanks, Elvira. Sorry.
It's the first mistake, but that's all right. Go on. It'll be the only mistake.
There you go. Elvira, this is such a wonderful opportunity to TIFF Bell Lightbox, I think, not only for film lovers, but for lovers of alternative cinema, whether it's cinema that comes from places in the world we don't normally see in the multiplex, whether it's for people who have specific interest in various kinds of films, queer interests, say, for example. In some ways, it's kind of an extension of the ethos of the film festival, this really inclusive vision that allows for a lot of different voices, a lot of non-Hollywood voices especially, to actually be seen and heard.
Oh, that's great. It sounds very exciting. So are there some films that are playing at TIFF that will be exclusively shown at the Lightbox?
Absolutely. Our first calendar is full of wonderful films. I think one that's going to be of particular interest for you guys is Xavier Dolan's Les Amours Imaginaires.
Okay.
Fantastic success at Cannes. It was actually wonderful to see a Canadian filmmaker, especially one so young, with this incredible fan base. Like literally in front of, before his screening, there were like 10,000 like kids under 25 like screaming, Xavier, Xavier. And it was really wonderful to see that that kind of effect was being made not only by a Canadian filmmaker, not only by a young filmmaker, but like a really out, fun, well-dressed queer one as well.
Nice,
so it was great.
Nice. Take that, Justin Bieber. Staying with on Xavier, like 2 films in as many years, right? Like, who is this wonder kid? Why is he so important? What is so significant about him?
I think why we love Xavier Dolan as film curators so much is that he really expresses a love of cinema, and he expresses it from a very particular perspective. Les Amours Imaginaires is full of a young person absorbing films that just made him think and made him feel passionate about the world.
Right.
So you see bits of Wong Kar-wai, you see bits of contemporary French cinema, you see wonderful references to other Quebec directors and landscapes that are familiar to us in films, say, by Denis Arcand or Denis Villeneuve. So for us, it's like, it's so wonderful to see an intelligent artist in development actually becoming someone we're going to be so proud of. We think for decades to come as they take these influences and they start to digest them to create new and innovative cinema.
Même quand j'essaie d'imaginer à quoi la pire mère du monde ressemblerait, là, j'arrive pas à surpasser ce que t'es.
This is why I love talking to you. You're an undeniable film maven, and I would say like a go-to cinema guy for
that's very sweet.
Pretty much any city or festival around the world, right? You know what? Never
we
mind.
Love,
it's
we
not
love
a question.
Movies.
It's not a question.
Okay,
it's
I'll just bask in your accolades.
So then tell me at this year's TIFF, what's good for the gays?
It's a great year for the gays. I have to say that the 2 films that I'm championing the most are by veterans.
Okay.
By the old man who I grew up with, who constantly reinvent themselves. And those are Greg Araki and Bruce LaBruce. I think, you know, as Xavier is this new promising generation, what's so interesting about queer filmmakers is that unlike a lot of their non-queer counterparts, there's always this sense of wanting to develop, of wanting to try something new, of experimentation. You know, in the case of Greg Araki, he's mapped this, what I think is actually kind of a lovely story about a young man in college sort of coming to terms with the fact that he's bisexual, but the fact that he's like, you know, feels a bit different from everybody else and, you know, has lived a very complicated family life and finds it a bit difficult to have the entanglements that that sort of make life worth living. So the various friendships, will they go deep enough to be able to sustain him during difficult times? What is going to be his ultimate relationship with his family? That's mapped onto like a completely wacky, out there, insanely put together sort of paranoid fantasy about alien abduction and you know, kind of witch infestation, sort of cult. Apocalyptic scenarios that actually are, you know, dislodge California from the rest of the planet, or maybe perhaps further dislodge California from the rest of the planet.
So
but, you know, honestly, I left the cinema laughing my head off, but also having my heart pound a little bit for the emotional lives of the characters.
Nice.
So really fulfilling on a lot of levels.
Okay, and so is we're on that would you say at the opposite end of that spectrum is Bruce LaBruce's film? Or?
Actually, no. I think
Okay.
Bruce also is seeking a synthesis himself in this new film. You know, let's make things very, very clear. This is, you know, another absolute hardcore pornography work of his.
Very clear.
You know, there is fucking and sucking and penises going into holes and you know, cum shots and the whole 9 yards.
Great. So for the kids.
So exactly. So bring the youngins.
Which stars a gay porn star? Wasn't it banned? Tell us. Give me the dirt.
Sure. The complicated thing is, I think we're showing the hardcore version here in Toronto. It was actually a softcore version. I believe they're intending to show in Australia.
Okay.
So we find the censors' reaction to the movie kind of an odd one because all the good stuff is gone. So what's so interesting about this movie for Bruce, though, is the beginning of his career were these films that are considered very sort of artistically minded, very concerned with aesthetics, quite slow, you know, I think, and thoughtful in their way. No Skin Off My Ass, Super 8.5, are films that, challenged a lot of queer audiences because, they were very much art films.
Right.
But the interesting thing about this LA Zombie with Bruce is that he's actually married a lot of that early arty thinking about cinema with this sort of new, more reverent, more genre-based style.
Right.
And so you actually have these like beautiful actual long shots of Los Angeles, these beautiful senses of lighting, how he actually creates a landscape out of this environment where this sort of homeless character exists, punctuated by like a big zombie fuck.
I love it. It's a thoughtful horror porn.
Which
film.
reminds me of my 20s, but it's,
So it's,
and many others maybe.
biographical.
But it's, or just LA life in general. But it really works.
Well, you've given the gays a lot of homework, and
Exactly.
we'll
Do
be
your
out.
work, gays.
We'll be out doing checking out the film festival, and when we're not, we'll head right over to the Bell Lightbox.
Come on down to TIFF Bell Lightbox.
There's many floors.
Lots of queers and lots of queer things happening.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Great. Thank you so much for this.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.